used humour to tackle issues of depression, dyslexia and ADHD. He joins a plethora of actors, billionaires, chefs, business people who didn't let learning challenges hamper their success. As October marks Mental Health Awareness Month, Hilton is now on a serious quest to tackle mental health issues. And to tell us more about his personal journey and his experiences with mental health, a very good afternoon to you, Barry. Welcome to Africa Update.
Thank you. Welcome. And thanks for contacting me. I'm actually just caught. I just got off a plane. So I'm here at the M&B and in the middle of a plethora of people, but I'm having a cup of tea, and it's wonderful that you wanted to have me on your show.
Well, we're really glad that you've made the time to come and join us. And, one would often think that as a comedian, your job is to make people laugh. Your job is to, I guess, shine a spotlight on serious things, but in a way that kind of makes light of them. Talk to us about how you've navigated your own personal journey through, your mental health issues and what role your comedic career has played in this.
When I look back on who I am and what I am and all that stuff, I realized that comedy, in my mental health since I was 8 years old, I've obviously been struggling. So comedy was my resilience tool. So every time something bad happened, I would revert to comedy, to humor. I didn't realize it at the time, but then I hated being an electrician. That was my job. My father chose for me after I left school. And in 1983, I stopped. My father he wouldn't talk to me for 3 months because I got a job as a professional comedian. And I haven't looked back since. But every time I was on stage, I would always, in the back of my mind, thinking, I wonder if that was good enough. I wonder if I'm going to be good. I wonder if I'm going to be popular tomorrow, which in turn drove me to get better, stronger, and all that stuff. So it's been a blessing, but a weird blessing, if that makes sense. But the worst thing about it is mental health comes into effect after my shows. I did a huge show last night in Durban, and then I went to a hotel room and sat there and just couldn't sleep until 3:30 this morning, thinking to myself, I wonder if I'm still good enough. And then I'm thinking, but hold on, I am still good enough. But that's how my talk came about, actually, because I physically had a breakdown 5 years ago. And when I was in the clinic, I realized, wow, I'm not so bad. What is actually happening is people are not brave enough to come out and say, hey, I'm struggling here. It's not a man thing to do, And I find it quite strange when I actually talk to people at my shows, or my talks, not my shows. Men come up to me and they say, wow, that was very brave because I've been struggling from this. And I'll go to them, well, why don't you go see somebody? And their normal answer is, no, the people will think I'm crazy. And I said, exactly, you are crazy.
But let's do this. Let's try and demystify this a little bit, Barry. When we talk about mental health or mental illness, what exactly are we talking about, and how does it manifest itself? How does one know, what borders on quote unquote normality, or what then trickles into quote unquote abnormality, if one can use those type of phrases?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Do you love your job?
Absolutely.
There we go. That's a thing. I ask people that, do you love your job? And they go like, there's a red flag straight away. That's full for me, because as a comedian, I love my job. I worked with double pneumonia. I worked the day my father died. I worked when my brother died. I was on stage when my mother died. And the show must go on. I went through a really, really, really bad divorce. And I had to go on stage and talk about it. But the funny part about it was that after I was speaking about it, people, men and women, came to me after my comedy show, when I, talked about my divorce and it. They said to me, "Wow, I'm going through that same thing, but how come you can make it funny?" And my answer to them is also, well, you've got two choices. You can drown or you can learn to swim a bit better. So that's what I did. And so in a strange way, my need to succeed overcomes my fear of failure. So that's what pushed me on to create more and better and whatever. So, but everybody struggles. I mean, lots of people struggle. So if I can have a message out there, if you're not feeling yourself, if you wake up in the morning and think, oh, do I really have to go to work today? Maybe it's time to go and speak to somebody. Not to quit your job, but to go and say, hey, listen, I'm having a hard time with pressures of X, Y, Z. Can you help me? And most people, unfortunately, don't say anything until it's too late. And I tell people always, Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain. I mean, who would have thought Robin Williams? Who would have thought that?
Yeah.
No. So,
and how do you get those support structures? How do you identify the places that are safe places that you can go to where you're not going to be judged, where you're not going to feel judged for feeling the way that you do?
Yeah, my wife took me to a doctor. I was having a screaming match at my wife. In fact, she was quiet. I was screaming in a restaurant, and she put the food down. She said, "Get your card. We're going now." She took me to a doctor, and it was my personal doctor. For my checkups and things like that. So, and that afternoon I was in the clinic. So, that was the beginning of my healing process, because I used to hide behind my ADHD, and I would hide behind my dyslexia and make jokes about it. But what I didn't realize was that was making me, the fact that I was hiding from it was making me more depressed. So now I own it. I got ADHD, big deal. That's how people should, don't worry about stuff so much.
Let's talk about definitions for a bit, Barry. When you talk about dyslexia and we talk about ADHD, what exactly does that look like? I think we've spoken about the depression and covered that, quite a bit. But dyslexia and ADHD, what exactly are they, and what are the symptoms?
For me, my personal one is I read the wrong way around. I'll look at something and it'll say something in my mind, and I will, what? And then I'll look at it again and think, oh no, hold on a second. That goes there and that goes there. So I have a hard time distinguishing letters. There's a joke I say about it. I say, I'm so dyslexic, the mat on my front door says Malcolm. It doesn't say welcome. So, but I make a joke about it. So that's what happens when you got dyslexia. I'm thinking for myself. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you. And ADHD is a lack of concentration skills. I could never concentrate in school long enough, except for maths and science. I was for some obscure reason that grabbed my attention. But history, I was please, I couldn't deal with it. So then I became the class clown, and then I became the hated boy in the class from the teachers because I was disrupting the class. But I wasn't doing it on purpose. I have this condition called ADHD. I can't keep concentration. I'm surprised I'm still talking to you.
As you're speaking, Barry, it just dawns on me that it just means that one is gifted in other areas. Because, nobody really is 100% at everything. And so if you're not going to be gifted in, this reading and writing and history and all of those things, but you're gifted in, science and more technical issues, it just means that one is more inclined towards that. And I wonder if our education system makes room for one to play to their strengths, as opposed to trying to be what you are not innately, quote unquote.
Well, it may be now, but when I was in school, no. Because I even used to make the teachers laugh, but the teachers wouldn't laugh out loud. I could see them when I would make these commitment, stuff. And those teachers those days, and it wasn't, they should have said to my parents, listen, you need to put this guy in a art school. That's what, but we didn't. Thursday, shut up, open a book, read it. I mean, one day, you're quite young, so when I was in school, it was just every day of our lives we learned about Jan van Riebeeck. Okay, you remember him?
Oh yeah, who cannot remember what was drilled into us in history?
This is true. The teacher one day said to me, Hilton, and they always used to ask me, so maybe it was because they wanted the response. He said to me, Hilton, what did Jan van Riebeeck eventually turn up as? And I said to him, a tin of Rick coffee.
Well, look, on that note, our time is completely up. But I cannot let you go. I know I can't let you go without asking for some pointers that you can give to our listeners, just regarding around mental health, coping, and thriving and succeeding.
It takes a man to admit there's something wrong. It doesn't take. If you don't admit to somebody, hey, I'm struggling here, then you have to do that. You have to grasp that. Speak to your friends, speak to your loved ones, go to a doctor. You must do it. Do not ignore it, because most of the times, by the time you realize, I'm in trouble, it's too late. So please, if you have a problem out there, address somebody. Go speak to your neighbor if you must be. Listen, I'm having a hard time here, but there's nothing wrong with being open and having a hard time. And you'll be surprised if you tell somebody, I'm really struggling with this, they are most of the time sympathetic and say, oh, what can I do?
Right.
So there we go.
Barry Hilton, thank you so much. You've been absolutely awesome. Great chatting to you.
Fabulous chatting to you too.
Thank you so much.
You have a great day further.
Have a good one. Thanks. That's Barry Hilton, a South African comedian, in his journey with depression, anxiety, dyslexia, and ADHD. And I love what he says at the end. Just admit that you're struggling. Admit that, look, I'm not coping right now. And that is the first point of departure. And talk to somebody. Tell someone, look, I think I need some help. I've got a problem with this. I've got a problem with that. But don't allow yourself to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, because the burden is so much heavier when you're trying to carry it on your own. So that is how we come to the end of Africa Update for today.